Ever wish AI could, like, actually follow along with your favorite cooking show? Pictures and all.
Hmm, that's a really interesting thought.
Well, get this. Today's deep dive is all about MM1.5, and let me tell you, it's not your average AI.
It really is pretty mind-blowing. What's fascinating to me is how MM1.5 goes way beyond just reading. It's like, imagine AI that can actually process text and images together. Like it can actually understand a photo and why it even matters in the first place.
Okay, so not just reading the recipe, but actually seeing the ingredients, the steps, the whole nine yards.
Exactly. You've got it.
That's wild.
It builds on, tech we've seen before, like GPT-4. But the thing about MM 1.5 is that it tackles all those things that used to totally confuse AI. Think like memes with all that layered text or those infographics that are just crammed with info.
So you're saying showing AI a funny meme wouldn't cause a system crash anymore?
No, not at all.
I'm already sold.
Well, that's great. It's been trained on mountains of OCR data. And what that means is it decodes text within images incredibly well. It's like having, an AI assistant that can actually read those messy handwritten notes we all have, the ones.
No, that's a thought, finally. An AI that can decipher my shopping lists. But okay, what about videos? How does it deal with, like, a whole sequence of images?
Ah, well, that's where MM 1.5 video comes in. This is really interesting. It doesn't just see a slideshow. It actually understands actions,
Yeah.
identifies objects, and analyzes the entire scene as it happens.
Okay, hold on. You're saying that it can follow along with, like, a basketball game
Exactly.
and tell you who's winning?
Potentially, yes. Think of the potential content creators, educators, even security footage analysis. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
This is blowing my mind already. So we're talking AI that can actually understand a cooking tutorial and learn how to make a dish, just like a human would.
You're on the right track. The researchers specifically highlight MM 1.5's multi-image reasoning.
Hmm.
It basically connects the dots between visuals,
Yeah.
whether it's understanding a comic strip or, deciphering a multi-step instruction manual.
So it's not just seeing, it's getting the whole story those images are telling. But how do you even start building something this sophisticated? Is it just a matter of, like, feeding it a ton of data?
You're right. Data is absolutely essential. The researchers use an enormous amount of data to train MM 1.5, particularly for those tricky areas we discussed, text-heavy images, and something called referring and grounding.
Wait, back up a sec. Referring and grounding. What do those even mean in, like, AI terms?
Okay, so imagine asking an AI, where's the buy now button? And it not only understands what you're asking, but it also tells you its exact location on the screen with coordinates.
So it can, like, move a mouse cursor and click it?
Well, in a way, yes. It knows where it is. That's referring and grounding in action.
So it's not just understanding what's in an image, it's about being able to actually find things in that image based on what you tell it.
Wow, exactly. And to train this, they used a special data set called Ferret Bench, which really tests an AI's ability to do this.
Okay, so they've got this massive amount of data, and they're training MM1.5 on all sorts of complex tasks. But doesn't all that make the AI, kind of a show-off, like too smart for its own good?
It's an interesting thought. The research actually delves into different sizes of MM1.5 models, with varying parameters like 1B, 3B, even a massive 30B.
So it's like different levels of AI brain power. Does that mean the 30B model is the ultimate AI, leaving all the others in the dust?
Generally, bigger models do perform better, but it's a trade-off. They're more complex, more expensive to run. The amazing thing is, even the smaller MM1.5 models did incredibly well, especially compared to others their size.
So it's not always about brute force, but working smarter, not harder. I like that.
Efficiency is key, too. They incorporated something called mixture of experts, or MOE, into some models. Imagine a team of specialized AIs, one for text, one for images, all working together seamlessly. That's MOE in a nutshell.
Now that's what I call teamwork. It seems like they thought of everything in designing MM1.5.
And that meticulous approach is everywhere in their process. They didn't just throw this data at the model randomly. They used a multi-stage approach, fine-tuning it step by step for different areas.
Like sending MM1.5 to AI University with specialized courses for each skill.
Exactly. They had a pre-training phase, then a continual pre-training stage focused on OCR to boost its text and image understanding, and finally, a supervised fine-tuning stage using that carefully curated mix of data.
So they basically got MM1.5 enrolled in this AI university, taking all these specialized courses, but did they actually ace the tests? Like, how do we know it all worked?
That's where things get really interesting. They really dug into how different data sets affected the model's performance. For example, They found that using specific data for referring and grounding, those skills we talked about, significantly boosted those skills, which, when you think about it, makes sense.
Yeah, it's like studying for a specific exam, right? You wouldn't exactly bring your history notes to a math test.
Precisely. They even experimented with image resolution during training, and guess what? Turns out higher resolution images, especially in that continual pre-training phase, really help the model understand those text-heavy images much better.
Well, yeah. I mean, trying to teach AI to read from blurry pictures probably wouldn't work very well, would it?
Exactly. And the thing is, they didn't just stop there. Processing high-resolution images efficiently, well, that's a whole other challenge. So they used a technique called dynamic image splitting.
Dynamic image splitting. Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart. What is that?
It's actually pretty cool. It's like breaking down a large image into, bite-sized chunks for the AI to process instead of overwhelming it with the whole thing all at once.
So, like giving it a puzzle to solve one piece at a time instead of just throwing all the pieces on the table at once.
You got it. And this dynamic approach actually worked way better than the old way of static splitting, leading to better accuracy and efficiency.
Okay, all this talk about training is fascinating and all, but can we see this thing in action? Like, give me some real world examples.
Absolutely. Imagine, for instance, showing MM1.5 a screenshot of your phone, with all the apps and everything.
Yeah, so basically a digital mess.
Sure. And you could ask it, what's that app with the bluebird do? And MM1.5 would not only be able to identify it as Twitter, but also explain what Twitter is.
Okay, that's pretty impressive, but what about something a little more, I don't know, complex? Like, what if I showed it a chart-filled infographic?
MM1.5 can handle it. Show it an infographic about, say, global population trends, and then ask, which continent will have the biggest population growth in the next 10 years? What do you think will happen?
It's going to crash.
Not this time. MM1.5 would actually analyze the charts, understand the data, and give you the right answer.
No way. So it's not just recognizing images, it's actually understanding the information they convey?
That's amazing. And with MM1.5 video, it gets even cooler. Imagine showing it a basketball game and asking, how many three-pointers did the player in the red jersey make? MM1.5 would actually track the player throughout the entire game, identify each three-pointer, and then give you a totally accurate count.
Wow, this is really next level stuff. Now I'm wondering, could MM1.5 like watch a movie and write a review?
That's definitely pushing the limits a bit.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's not totally out there. MM1.5 video can already analyze scenes, identify characters, and even understand the emotions being portrayed in those scenes.
Okay, that's kind of blurring the lines between how humans think and AI. Is this exciting or a little scary?
Honestly, a bit of both. The potential is enormous, from accessibility to how we interact with information in general, but it also definitely raises questions about what it means for AI to understand our visual world to this degree.
It's a powerful tool, that's for sure. And it's up to us to make sure it's used for good.
Exactly. And the important thing to remember is that MM1.5 is still being developed. Even the researchers themselves say there's definitely room for improvement.
So where do we go from here? Are we like on the verge of a visual AI revolution?
We're definitely seeing a major leap forward, that's for sure.
No.
MM1.5 is pushing the boundaries of what AI can do, and it's totally paving the way for even more advanced models in the future.
Okay, before we get too caught up in all this, you mentioned earlier a special version of MM1.5 specifically for understanding like user interfaces. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Right. MM1.5 UI. Think of it as like the ultimate digital assistant for all your devices. It's been specifically trained to understand user interfaces, your phone screen, app layouts, buttons, the works.
So it's like having an AI that can actually use your phone for you.
More than that, even. It could be used to help with accessibility, like describing the screen to someone who can't see.
Yeah.
Or it could even automate tasks based on your voice commands.
Hold on. You're saying I could tell MM1.5 UI to like order my usual coffee from Starbucks and it would just do it just by understanding my phone?
You got it. They tested MM1.5 UI on all sorts of things, recognizing icons, understanding text in UI elements, even figuring out what you can and can't click on.
So it's not just about seeing the screen, but actually understanding how it all works.
Precisely. And it did incredibly well, even beating out models that were specifically designed for UI understanding in certain areas.
That is incredible. They basically created an AI that can see, read, understand, and even interact with our digital world. It's like something straight out of science fiction.
And the most exciting part is that this is only the beginning. MM1.5 shows us just how fast AI is advancing, and it gives us a glimpse of what might be possible in the future.
So we've covered a ton about MM1.5 today. Everything from like deciphering memes to, potentially revolutionizing how we use our phones. What's the biggest takeaway for you from all this?
I think what really stands out to me is just how seamlessly MM1.5 handles all these different types of information. It's not just, a visual AI. It's more like this multimodal powerhouse.
Multimodal powerhouse. I like that.
It just excels at tasks that require understanding and reasoning across, text, images, video, all at once.
It's like the ultimate multitasker. Our brains kind of do that naturally, but for AI to be able to keep up is super impressive.
Exactly. And the researchers really see this multimodality as like the key to even greater things for AI in the future. They believe MM 1.5 is a huge step toward models that truly understand the world around us in all its complexity.
Okay, so if MM1.5 is this huge step forward, where do we go from here? What are the developers hoping to achieve in future versions?
Well, they're the first to admit that even MM 1.5 has its limitations. For example, while it's great at understanding like short videos, it still struggles a bit with longer, more complex sequences.
So it can handle a quick how-to video on YouTube, but maybe not a full-length feature film just yet.
Right, exactly. Another area where there's room for improvement is in handling, really subtle details. MM 1.5 might be able to grasp the general gist of a scene, but picking up on, say, nuanced facial expressions or interpreting, complex symbolism, that's still a challenge.
It's like the difference between like understanding the basic plot of a movie versus really grasping the like deeper meaning behind all the director's choices.
Exactly. But, I think that also just highlights how much progress has really been made in this field. MM 1.5 is already incredibly advanced. And the fact that we're now even talking about teaching AI to interpret symbolism, well, that's pretty mind-blowing in itself.
It really is. This all makes me wonder if an AI can learn to see and understand the world, like we do, even with some room to grow. What does that say about how we learn and process information?
Oh, wow. Now that is a question that philosophers and scientists have been grappling with for centuries. But you know what? I think the development of AI like MM 1.5 brings a whole new dimension to that whole conversation.
For sure. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, that's for sure. It's
Yeah.
both incredibly exciting and honestly a little bit humbling to see just how far AI has already come.
I totally agree. It really is a rapidly evolving field. And honestly, I can't wait to see what kind of breakthroughs we see next.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for joining me today on this incredible journey into the world of MM 1.5. It's been really fun. And for all of you listening out there, we'll keep you posted on all the latest developments in this exciting field. Until next time.